Viewers, first it was Australia making waves by banning social media platforms for kids under the age of 16, and now India seems to be on a similar path. Don't worry, not mulling a ban really, but parental control for children under the age group of 18. Now it's a move that seems to be getting parents across the nation nodding in approval. Well, the Modi government has rolled out the draft rules of the Digital Personal Data Protection Act 2023. And guess what? If you are under 18 years of age, then forget about signing up for social media apps without the approval of your parents or guardians. You heard that right. The consent of your parents is the new login password of your social media accounts. So no more sneaky logins without the approval of your mom and dad. But it doesn't stop there. The new rules also aim to protect the personal data of children. Apart from the mandatory parental control, they can also use digital locker to verify their identity for the creation of their child's social account. The new draft rules for Digital Personal Data and Protection Act 2023 also talk about personal data breach. In case that happens, then immediately the application, the platform will have to inform that particular person within 72 hours about the nature of the breach that happened and what time it really happened. All these are mentioned in the new draft rules. Now, Congress netas are saying that such norms have become necessary as kids can be easily misled on social media today. TMC, on the other hand, says protecting children from harmful content of social media is critical. Listen in.
बहुत जरूरी हो गया है। केंद्र सरकार की ये भूमिका जो है ये जरूरी है। ये देखिए आजकल बच्चे छोटे भी उनको जिस तरह से सोशल मीडिया पर ये लोग आईडी बनाकर सोशल मीडिया का वापर कर रहे छोटे छोटे बच्चे और उसका बहुत सारा दुरुपयोग भी चल रहा है और ऐसे में वो गलत रास्ते पर भटकने के भी चांसेस है। एक तो माँ बाप ने ये सब करने से पहले 18 साल के पहले बच्चों के हाथ में स्मार्टफोन देना ही नहीं चाहिए।
It may have certain kind of purpose about the unrestricted use of social media and bad influence of social media on children. Having said that, I must point out there should be a very reasonable and thoughtful process of determining that what age they are considering that below this age children should have parental consent.
To some extent, there must be restriction, and youth today are spoiled. Not only spoiled, but they have become lethargic. Their contribution towards economy development and their own growth is checkered by excessive use of social media. Something should be there. I can't say that it's a blanket, there should be a blanket control or curb on the use of social media, but certain restrictions are needed.
Now, viewers, the government has released these draft rules and now it is open to receive objections and suggestions from people across the country till 18th of February. And here on Times Now, viewers, it's a call-in show that we have for you where we want to ask you, is this the need of the hour? Is this what India really needs at this point in time? And before I take that point across to my guest who will be joining us in just a short while from now, let's tell you a little bit about how is it as far as children's addiction for smartphones and social media apps is concerned. In a recent survey conducted by local circles, alarming trends regarding children's digital habits in India have come to light. Let's take a look at the key findings here. So viewers, 95%, according to this particular survey, 95% of teenagers in India today are on social media. It's not that it's bad to be on social media platforms, but then the other findings are also very, very important. 40% of the kids are in the age group of 8 to 12 who are currently on social media. 6 in 10, in fact, kids in the age group of 9 to 17 years of age spend around 3 hours online on a daily basis. This is what the survey has found. Another finding is that about 17% kids in Maharashtra are spending around 6 hours online every single day. 22% parents are saying that their children have got some kind of symptoms of depression, and this is where the problem really lies. And this is the reason why the government also feels that perhaps spending too much time on social media platforms is not right, and the kind of social media platforms that you're using, the kind of things you're following is something that needs some kind of parental control. And many believe that this is the reason why, one of the reasons, of course, why a step of this kind has been taken by the government. Now it has invited suggestions from public and key stakeholders. Another finding of the survey, viewers, is that 35% list OTT platforms as their kids' favorite pastime. Now, these are some of the, findings of a survey that talks about how people spend, how children specifically spend their time on various social media platforms. Let me now go across to my colleague Isha, who's also joining us live for more on this. Isha, now this has sparked a big debate online, but can you explain to us the need to have these kind of, things in this, policy, in the draft rules that have come out? What is the view of the government? Why does the government feel that this is something that's needed for a country like India?
Right, absolutely, Hina. In fact, India is not the first country to introduce this set of laws. In fact, other countries have done it as well, Australia being one of the most prominent ones. Now, the government has made it mandatory for parental consent for children to upload their data. In fact, when a child is below 18 years of age, his or her consent is also not considered legal. So, again, while they would make their social media accounts, that would raise multiple questions because it would go on in an unchecked fashion. But also to remind our viewers a little bit about this particular game that came in was the blue whale game that would extract a lot of data from young children and would then lead them to an absolute a point where they would actually end up also killing themselves. So that is how powerful and dangerously powerful social media can be if there is access, and there is access which is unchecked access. We'll also open this up to parents who are joining us here. Ma'am, you have a young child, आपका एक छोटा बच्चा है, आपको एक constant fear नहीं रहता है कि अकाउंट बना लिया तो कोई फायदा ना उठा ले या फिर कुछ गलत साइट्स एक्सेस ना कर ले, तो क्या ये बिल अब आने से क्या आपको लगता है कि कुछ फायदा होगा?
I think I do have a constant fear of that कि मेरा बच्चा जो है क्या डाउनलोड कर रहा है, क्या वो खेल रहा है, because I have heard many games and apps, like PUBG, I don't know what kind of game it was, and Blue Whale, right? And so yes, मेरे अंदर fear तो बहुत रहता है क्योंकि मेरा बच्चा अभी छोटा है, he has not that enough kind of knowledge कि मुझे क्या डाउनलोड करना है and क्या नहीं. So I think that kind of act will be, will give so much of relief to parents.
It will also provide safety for children?
Yes, of course.
So, Hina, you did hear their parent, one of the parents, their child is 12 years of age, and one of the major fears that parents across India and across the world also face is that somebody should not take advantage of their child, of their innocence. And this bill has definitely come in as a breath of fresh air and will further reinforce some strict rules that will make it difficult for children and the dark web to definitely take advantage of children. Back to you.
Absolutely. These are much awaited, draft of the rules, in fact, which has now been released by the government for public consultation. And here on Times Now as well, we are seeking comments from the viewers as well. What do you think about, these draft rules, specifically about giving parental control, making it mandatory for children to open social media account under the age group of 18. That's the aspect that we are looking at. Isha, thank you for the moment for joining us with your inputs on the story. Advocate Virag Gupta, who is a cyber law expert, is joining us on the broadcast. We have Dilip Cherian as well, founder, Perfect Relations. Thank you very much, both of you gentlemen, for joining us here on Times Now. Dilip Cherian, much awaited draft rules are here. Now, the government has given us a sense of, the direction it plans to take as far as digital personal data protection is concerned. And for children specifically, of course, it talks about protecting children's data, a consent manager framework. They deal with provisions of personal data breach as well, setting up a data protection board too. But I want to talk to you specifically about the point that it makes about, children under the age of 18 who will require parental consent to create social media accounts. Where do you stand on this, and do you think this is something that India needs right now?
My sense is that the nanny state must not and cannot replace the duties of parenting. I think that having an age profile of 18 is far too high. I think that the state is intervening in the personal life of children who have agency far before the age of 18. I also think that you are allowing by this process the abdication of all duties by parents. What are parents doing in their homes if they are not supervising kids? And they should. I can understand having a set of regulations for those below 14, for example. But 18 is far too high a barrier to set. And the most confusing part of this is to try and shift the entire blame onto the social media platforms because the parents are not willing to pay attention to what's going on in their homes and in the hands of what their children hold.
Okay.
Who gives the child the phone in the first place? It is the parent. Who creates the habit of the social media or OTT platforms as a means of keeping them quiet when they are babies and trying to feed them? It is the parents. So I think that we are trying as the state, and I don't think that the state's duty to replace the tasks that are assigned to a parents within a family setup system.
That's a very interesting point of view, and I will get the reaction on this from Advocate Virag Gupta as well. But before that, like I said earlier, viewers, it's a show for you. It's a platform for you as well to express your thoughts on this new rule, the draft rule that the government has come out with. And we have with us first caller on the show, Sanjay, who is joining us from Guwahati. Good evening. Thank you for speaking with us here on Times Now. What is your point of view?
Good evening. I am glad that the government has thought about something of this type because I am the headmaster of the school. And before COVID, in our school, we used to tell our parents and children that they should not own a mobile. During the COVID, when classes went online, we again had to tell the parents that they have to procure a mobile for attending the online classes. And I think it was during that period that the children got hooked on to the usage of the mobile phone.
Yes.
And they had plenty of leisure time because they were all indoors during COVID times. And that was the time I feel, that's my opinion, my personal opinion, that they got engaged into the various OTT platforms. They had access to all that and the social media. And now, after COVID, when the school again reopened and everything was limping back to normalcy, and now we are back to normalcy, we find that the students are already hooked on to the mobile phone and the, and the social media.
Yes.
So I feel this is a great decision by the
you calling it a great decision, of course. That's an interesting point that you've also made. Thank you very much, Sanjay. Appreciate you calling us here on Times Now and sharing with us your perspective. Advocate Virag Gupta, you've heard two important views, one by Dilip Cherian and one by a viewer. Where do you stand on this?
11 years back in 2013, I was in panel with Mr. Cherian regarding on the same subject, when Delhi High Court directed that these social media companies should comply with their own rule, which were framed as per the US law COPPA. That was framed in 2000. So that's the little background. And after that, in 2017, there was a Supreme Court judgment of the 9 judges bench. Accordingly, Parliament passed Data Protection Law in 2023. That law, Section 9, already provides that personal sensitive data of children cannot be processed by these companies without the consent of parents or the guardians. So nothing new is there in these rules. That law is already there since August 2023. That clarity should be there. Now, secondly, these all companies are registered in US, and US law says not only US children but children outside US should be protected. So what's the purpose of this law? We should understand from the 4 points. Number 1, age of adulthood in India as per the Indian Majority Act. That's why any children below 18 years cannot get SIM card. That is first point. Second point is our own law passed by the parliament by which personal data cannot be processed. We have seen the protest and the controversy in Delhi where the private players and the political parties were collecting the data, and there was a complaint and FIR against those persons. So these companies cannot collect, and that is the second point. Third point is section 4 of the law refers about the processing, section 6 about the consent, and section 16 about sifting of data outside India. So it is nothing to do with the personal choices. It is to do with the protection of children on the cyberspace.
It is clearly about the protection of children, in the cyberspace. It's a valid point, but I think what Dilip Cherian said is also very interesting because, of course, state has got its own duty to protect the children of this country, to protect the data of the users of social media platforms as well, to ensure that the big tech is held accountable, but also there is a responsibility that lies with the parents as well. So we'll see what eventually happens, because right now the government has invited suggestions on this till 18th of February. It's an interesting debate that has started on social media as well. Appreciate both of you gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us here on Times Now and sharing with us your perspective. We will slip into another very, very short break right now. More news and updates on the other side.